Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mark Skogerboe sitting in for Scott Hennon, and we have the real honor and delight of having one of the brightest leaders in America, former Governor John Sununu, former Chief of Staff for the first George W. Walker Bush presidency, and on the steering committee with Mitt Romney. And you got to be pretty happy, sir. First of all, welcome to the Scott Hennon Show, and how are you today after the afterglow of Florida?
Well, thank you, Mark. It's always great to be on the show. It's nice to be on with you. Florida was a great, obviously a great evening for Governor Romney. He worked awfully hard in Florida. He did great in the two debates in Florida, and I think it's going to make a huge difference as we move on into what I'm absolutely convinced, unfortunately, is going to be a very long process. But at least he's got some momentum now as we move into the next stage.
Well, you know, I'm a resident of Minnesota. I understand that your candidate, Mitt, is in Eagan today with our former and very popular Governor Pawlenty.
Yeah, he is up there. I don't know if he's arrived yet, but they're headed up there. And as you know, Minnesota has a caucus on the 7th. And the governor's going up there and starting this phase. Tim Pawlenty's been great, supporting the governor, acting as a surrogate. He was a great governor when he was in Minnesota, and he's been a great surrogate for Mitt Romney.
He's the favorite governor I've ever had. I'm 66 years old, and I've been to every state convention since 1980. And I'll tell you, Tim Pawlenty never raised taxes in all of his tenure. And, he just really lived the fiscal conservative. Plus, he's pro-life, and, that matters. I want to commend you quickly, sir, about the way you raised your son to go to Harvard and still come out and go to the Senate and the Congress with the kind of voting record he had. I thought that was pretty cool.
He went to MIT and got his master's in mechanical engineering, so he had a shield around him before he went to Harvard.
That's cool. Well, you've got a mechanical engineering degree from MIT too, don't you?
Yeah, I got all three of my degrees at MIT, all in mechanical engineering. Look, we need engineers in Congress to help solve problems. We've had too long, I think, government by lawyers for too much, and so I've encouraged we have 8 kids, and I've encouraged my technically oriented kids to think a little bit about politics.
Well, I sure hope your son retakes his seat in 2014 because his voting record, pro-gun, pro-life, business, he was really a leader, and like you say, with the great black and white, clear engineering perspective. My son is an engineer, and I know how they think. They gotta solve problems, and they don't have the solution until they get it right. And engineers, I think we need a lot more engineers and a lot less lawyers in government. Well,
John's out earning a few tuitions while he's out for a while, so I don't know what he's going to do, but. Look, the country is in trouble today, and that's one of the reasons I'm so strongly supporting Mitt Romney. We have a mess in Washington that needs somebody that knows how to fix problems, and Mitt Romney really does. He did it when he went back to the Olympics. He did it when he went to Massachusetts. He cut spending tremendously. He cut the deficit. He turned it into a surplus. He cut taxes. He cut the deficit without raising taxes. He stood strong with the pro-life folks when the research lobby tried to change the definition of life, and stood with pro-life. When the gay marriage issue came around, he stood with the family tradition people, and both the life and traditional marriage folks have written very strong letters supporting Mitt Romney and what he did as governor, and he kept Massachusetts out of the cap-and-trade regional greenhouse gas program. He fought cap-and-trade and kept them out. He was a very conservative governor, and people try and paint him as otherwise. The phrase Newt Gingrich uses Massachusetts moderate, but he was a conservative in Massachusetts. The last time we bought a line from a Georgian conservative, we ended up with Jimmy Carter, and people that are looking at Newt Gingrich ought to understand that.
Well, that just kind of unveils the. You got to say there's actually some wounds. There's been some some hurt feelings. And I don't know if how much time you've spent in the Midwest, but Minnesota Nice is a real perspective. We almost ache for civility. I've heard people say that the fight in Florida got so ugly that they were starting to get turned off, and we certainly want to be able to unite vigorously behind the ultimate nominee, because we got to get rid of Obama. I really believe this is the most important election in my lifetime for my 16 grandkids, sir.
It is, and look, it was a tough campaign in Florida. I think Governor Romney went into South Carolina and tried. The rap on Mitt Romney has been that he's too nice, and so he went into South Carolina and tried to stay nice. Gingrich had his moment in the debate. By the way, the interesting thing about Gingrich's legend on debates, Gingrich doesn't stand up to his own opposing candidates. He's never stood up to them. He can't do it. The two debates in Florida, Romney stood up to Gingrich as mano a mano, so to speak. But Gingrich's big moments in the debates have been attacking the press. Well, to have somebody's great talent being that they can attack the press doesn't tell me they can solve the problems of America. Mitt Romney knows how to solve those problems. I think he got tough in Florida because he got bruised in South Carolina by being too nice. I think you see a man who is fundamentally focused on issues, focused on fixing the problems this country has, and I think when he gets to Minnesota, they're going to feel very comfortable with him. Tim Pawlenty has been a great surrogate, as I said earlier, and the two of them are there in Minnesota today to launch the effort to get ready for the caucus on the 7th.
Well, is the Romney campaign prepared for Newt to fight all the way to Tampa Bay?
Well, I don't know if Newt really will fight that long. Newt has a history of talking big and doing little. And so he'll talk big for a while, but I suspect after about another 30 days, this thing will winnow out.
Well, now would you have time? There's a big question about Michelle Bachmann I'd really like to float before you, but we've only got about a minute left in this segment.
Hold on.
Could you hold on? I really appreciate it. I'm when I was reading so much of your bio and your life is so interesting. If you could tell us what it must have been like to be chief of staff for a president. My goodness, to be the ultimate gatekeeper of information, to sit in that chair had to be just fascinating. I know it's kind of off the track, but I'll give you plenty of time to talk about the quest of Michelle Bachmann's endorsement and stuff after the break. But your career is really interesting. And, with the 8 kids and all, you've got a lot of very good insights from a personal point of view. Like, I really sense a personal reason why you're so involved in this election.
Well, look, I was lucky enough to serve a president that I really admired, George Herbert Walker Bush, the first President Bush. And it was an amazing time. The Soviet Union was collapsing. George Bush knew how to handle it. He had a great team. Baker and Scowcroft, myself, we had a very tight-knit group that really worked together very well.
Well, that is great, sir, and we're looking so forward to you coming back after the break. We're with former Governor John Sununu and the Common Sense Club of the Scott Hennon Show. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very special edition of the Scott Hennon Show. I am not Scott Hennon. I am Mark Skogerboe, sitting in for him today as he's off in New York. But we have the former governor of New Hampshire, John Sununu, with us, and former chief of staff for George W. Bush Sr., who also is on the steering committee for a man who is in Minnesota, apparently in Eagan, with former Governor Pawlenty, Mitt Romney. Anyway, welcome back. Thank you so much for hanging in there, Governor Sununu. How are you?
My pleasure. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing good. How is all of your family, and are they all Mitt Romney supporters, or do they have some?
There's 8 kids and 15 grandkids. The grandkids are a little too young to vote unless they live in Chicago. They'll let them vote there. But it's
Twice.
A great family. They take good care of me, and we've been blessed.
Well, it's really interesting, these grandkids. I have 16, and they are 1/4 of our DNA, each of our grandkids. So
Right.
it's really cool to see them in their ears or their behaviorisms or their hair or something. And anyway, the
Mitt
thing.
Romney's got 16 too, so you guys share something. It's a great family. The Romney family is really a solid family.
Well, that's good to hear, and that becomes that can become a huge issue. I would say probably the thing that's kind of percolating on the negative side over the night is that. Do you think that your candidate's negatives got too high with this bruising battle in Florida, or do you think that can be healed?
No. I think it. Even the exit polling said, the people there were actually making up their minds on the basis of issues more than the negativity. It was tough, but look, there's nothing that Newt Gingrich touches that doesn't get like that. Remember, his own leadership team kicked him out as Speaker of the House because it got like that. Unfortunately, you have to deal with things as they are, and Mitt Romney came out of South Carolina realizing that he had underestimated the effectiveness of the Gingrich negative attacks, and he put together a solution to that problem in Florida. And now we move on. I suspect that the campaign may get a little bit more civil over the next month or two, but the party will heal. The party will come together. Republicans of all stripes understand how important it is to defeat President Obama and undo Obamacare and undo the terrible policies that have kept job growth from really taking place. And the guy to do that is Mitt Romney.
Well, when people do a little futuristic thinking, I was a commodities broker for years, and when you plot trends, if you imagine the impact to revenues, if we get, 4, 5, 6, 10 million new jobs and energy independence, how we could absolutely cement our leadership in the world. Red China would never catch us if we had the right kind of a business leadership coupled with free enterprise and our tremendous, Republican form of government. If we can reinstate the very spirit of our Constitution, we'll cook.
Look, Romney's been talking about what we have to do. We have in this country now, between our basic energy resources, the capacity to dramatically reduce our dependence on external supplies. But the president we have now has allowed people to block the expansion of bringing our natural gas resources online. Our shale natural gas, which Mitt Romney recognizes is one of our great assets, would be a game changer in terms of the energy need balance of this country. The Obama administration has just passed rules to shut down our coal plants, a lot of our coal plants. That's one of our greatest energy assets. This country needs to understand that feel-good policies are not necessarily do-good policies. Mitt Romney understands the difference. That's the kind of president we need to let this country's economy start moving again and creating jobs. We have been in the longest slowdown that we have ever seen after a economic problem occurred. And it has been a slowdown because Obama does not understand what to do to fix it. Mitt Romney does.
Well, I'm sure you knew Milton Friedman. It's going to be his 100th birthday this year, and he just shows in black and white solid economic, almost an engineer's perspective towards stimulus only gives you a short-term bump, and then, my goodness, you'll have inflation and other things. If they wouldn't have been buying so much of our debt up and suppressing the natural tendency for the interest rates to rise, I think we would have been in a horrible mess, even worse than we already are, and it's just a short-term cop-out.
It is a short-term cop-out. We have a window to put the right policies in place. It's a window, I think, measured in maybe a dozen and a half months or so, like a year and a half. That's why this November election is so critical, and that's why we've got to come out of this November election with someone like Mitt Romney running the country. And he understands how to create jobs. He did it in the private sector. He understands how to fix messes. He did it with the Olympics. He understands how to cut spending and cut taxes. He did it as governor. And he understands that the traditional values of America are important. He's done that throughout his life.
does he feel like he, with all of those votes he got in the primary, does he feel like he's going to be able to carry Florida in the general?
I think so. I think when we look at the polling results, he did extremely well amongst all the voting groups, the Hispanics, the seniors, right across the board. His geographic distribution of votes was excellent. And look, the people in Florida have been around. A lot of them have been around a long time, like you and I have, and they understand the difference between a fluffy bumper sticker statement and the reality of somebody's capacity to do things. I think that's why Mitt Romney got such a good result.
Well, the fact that you, sir, were born in Cuba, I'm sure you've got some real affection for Marco Rubio. I bet he's on your short list of VP choices, huh?
My short list doesn't count. It's Governor Romney.
I know, but he's going to listen to you.
Marco's a great senator. I know Marco pretty well, and he's one of the great stars in America, and we're looking forward to even if he's only on the short list and doesn't end up as the VP nominee. This is a man that's going to make a difference for America over the long haul, and Mitt Romney and Marco Rubio have spoken a great deal about what this country needs to move forward.
Well, you know that both Marco Rubio and Michelle Bachmann and Sarah Palin and all of the people that are, you know, so far on the other side or supporting other candidates or non-committal, they will rally aggressively behind anybody but Obama. You know, they will rally behind Mitt if it turns out that he wins. And right now, I would have to say the odds makers are giving him a pretty strong edge. What do you think?
Well, I think the win in Florida is very important in maintaining the momentum he needs to go along. He understands it is a long haul. He's prepared for the long haul. He's designed the campaign for a long haul, and he treats it like you should treat any kind of a difficulty like that. You analyze what you have to do, and you put in place the assets to do it. That's what he's doing.
Well, we're coming up on a hard break. I am so honored and delighted. Thank you so much, John Sununu. God bless you, sir. God bless America. We'll be back after the break, ladies and gentlemen, to the Scott Hennon Show.